Hello everyone, welcome to KJV Bible Stories. Today we have a continuation in the book The Law of Life by E.J. Wagner. And today we are continuing on the 10th commandment, which is thou shalt not covet, or like it says in the book on page 135, you shall not covet. And right now we're in page 142, where we're going to talk about coveting also, and the love of money, and hoarding. And also, my husband will say,
and right now we're dealing not just the letter of the law that we're learning about. We're learning about also the spirituality. The law is broad, and there's many ways to break it. That's why only Christ kept the law. Man cannot physically keep the law. It must be Christ through us, His victory, and the law that He imputes unto us. That will give us righteousness.
Amen.
Alright. Now we're going to pray. Okay, Father in heaven, may you bless us. We're going to continue once again to learn of your commandment. And Lord, it's still binding here, even at the end of the world. Not one jot or tittle has passed away from your law. And we must honor it by learning of it. In your Son Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So we're in page 142, the love of money. And here goes the first verses. Timothy chapter 6, verses 9 and 10.
They that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolishness and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, all kinds of evil, which while some covet after, that they err from the faith and proceed themselves through with many sorrows.
Before we go any further, I am already thinking of something. Excuse me. One of the schemes that really comes up to my mind just immediately beginning this chapter is that this thing called pyramid schemes, where people try to get rich selling this product, and then you get this product and you get this money, and that person gets this product and you get this money. And there's been multitudes and multitudes and multitudes of companies doing this kind of pyramid schemes, and they're trying to get rich quickly, so they join into these things. But what happens? It really doesn't come through.
And you're deceived.
Exactly. And you lose money. And so it's really sad.
And even being in America, so many companies are on the stock market now that employers, they have their managers and everything that will treat their employees with ill will, and not even pay their employees pretty much anything. So what can they do? Make more money for people that invest in their company. So the people that invest in their company become richer and richer and richer, and while the workers becomes poorer and poorer and poorer. So man, the investors love money so much that they want more of it. They're not happy with $1 million. They're not happy with 10 million. They're not happy until they make billions upon billions of dollars. They love money that much that they will hurt their fellow man. And that's not good. And that's really evil thing.
Exactly. And some say, well, after I get this much money, then I will stop. And then they get to that point, no, now I want double and triple. And that's what covetousness is. Mind, the text does not say that money is an evil or the root of evil. It is the love of money that works mischief. There have been very wealthy men who were also patterns of goodness. And exactly, I was thinking about Job. Job had the testimony from God himself that he was a good man. Yet he was the wealthiest man in the country. But he did not trust in his riches. He was willing to distribute them. And the cause which he did not know, he searched out. And when his wealth was taken from him in the day, he was not in the least upset by it. He still trusted in God, who had given it and who was able to care for him without it. It's true, Job didn't love his money. He was very, very wealthy. He was always helping the widows, helping the cry of the widows, everything. He wasn't afraid to share his funds with the poor and needy. And so we nowadays have to have the same kind of character to want to help the poor and needy. Man, you really ask somebody a help and you really know what kind of person they are. You ask them for a donation or something and you really know, no, they want their money. They love their money. They don't want to share it to nobody. Hoarding means poverty. Proverbs 11:24.
There is a scattering. There is that scatter, yet increase, and there is withholding more than is meet, but is tend to poverty.
So there is that scatters and yet increases, and there is that withholds more than is meet, but it lends to poverty. In other words, we're holding things that are not essential, but it tends to poverty. As a matter of fact, right now I know a situation, I'm not going to say no names, that this person, their parents have a room, but it's full of clutter. And so this person is not able to sleep in their home. And so they'd rather have their clutter all stuck up in a room than to have their daughter sleep in that room. And that is exactly here fulfilling what it says in Proverbs 11:24. It is the law of God's universe that what is hoarded up withers away, and that which is scattered abroad increases. You know, I remember the words of Jesus that says it is a blessing to give than to receive. It is not money that is the evil, but the love of it, which leads one to hoard it up merely to look at, or as a financial fancied security against future need. Hoarding up wealth not only tends to poverty, but it is a sign of it. The miser has a constant sense of lack. The old epitaph on a miser who had heaped up thousands ended thus: yet this poor man with all his store died in great want, the want of more. Page 143. The man of small means who freely divides what he has with others is a real rich man. His action shows his recognition of the fact that he is in connection with a boundless store of wealth. A small stream of water constantly flowing is far better than thousands of barrels of it stored up in a cistern. Riches are not robbery. There seems to be in this age a special onslaught against rich men, as though to be rich were synonymous with being a robber. Corrupt practices are not to be defended, but we are not warranted in attributing all men to men of means. There is just as much covetousness among the poor as among the rich. The man who covets wealth and succeeds in getting it is certainly no worse than the one who covets it, but fails to grasp it. It is covetousness, not the possession of wealth, that is idolatry. It is not how much one has, but how one uses it, that determines his character. And it's true, I have met people that are really wealthy. And I met actually one person who's really wealthy, but was not very charitable. Charitable? Am I pronouncing it right? Okay. And so there'll be people that are nice, that are able to distribute money, and there's others that are just not. And so God is the judge. We gotta let God handle matters. Content with food and raiment. The word covetousness is translated from a number of different words, but as used in our study, it means to desire more than one needs. If a man has no coat, it is a sin for him to desire it sufficiently to make an effort to get it. This is compatible with perfect contentment. For contentment does not mean lazy indifference. 1 Timothy 6:8.
Having food and raiment, let us be therewith content.
The evil arises from this. The people think that they must specify just how much and what kind of food and clothing they shall have. The principal thing for now is contentment. God has charged himself with the task of seeing that we have food and clothing sufficient for our needs. He made the first clothing that men ever wore, Genesis 3:21, and it filled every requirement. It supplied covering and warmth, page 144. God is zealous for the carrying out of his own laws, and since he has ordained that every creature should have a covering suited to its state, we may be sure that he will not neglect the creatures whose need is greatest and most apparent. Just a word with regard to clothing. Do not forget that its true subject is comfort and decency, and not adornment. It shall not simply be that which is suitable, and then one need have not fear of its being in bad taste. When one is especially noticeable because of what one has on, that is just a bad taste. As to be noticeable because of the lack of clothing, one should be noticed, if noticed at all, for one is, and not for one has or has not. The clothing which is not part of the individual is altogether secondarily to the clothing which grows on one as a result of the spirit within, a knowledge of the relative value of things, and that God himself who gives us life and who thereby shows that it is his business to supply the things necessary for his proper subsistence, and that he alone can do it, will bring constant and perfect content. Contentment, not laziness. Someone may say the doctrine will tend to laziness. It is the stimulus of the necessity to earn one's own living to be taken away. If men get the idea that God will provide everything for them, they will not labor. Not so. The man who serves the living God can never be lazy. We have learned that man is not to work for money, but because he owes his best service to the world. The man who knows the Lord and who understands his relation to him will work just as hard and as diligently, without any prospect of wages, as he will for a large salary, knowing that it is his business to give his strength to the world and the service of Christ, page 145. And it is the Lord's business to sustain his life.
Yeah, you know what that means? It's like I've seen this many times before at church members and everything. It's like you in church and everything. It's like it's like they don't want to do anything. Oh, the Lord will provide, but yet they want to be lazy and not ever do anything.
Exactly. Yes.
And you see that many times over and everything. It's like it's like they don't want to get out there and go work hard and everything. And just, oh, Lord will provide and everything.
And this is not applicable for somebody who has a disease and are not able to make them work. This is more applicable to those who are capable of working.
Yes, you want to go out there and do your best to work at all times. Really, with us, is we should never want to expect a handout, and all that nature. Like for example, if you're capable of working, you don't want to go get a handout when you don't really need a handout. That would be pure laziness and everything. That's like the welfare system in America. You got many people in the welfare system of America that want a handout, but don't want to work. And what does it do? It's why half the problems that are happening with you in America today. Try the best of your ability to do what you can do for yourself and everything. And a person has a lazy attitude will be. I agree that people that will just not make it. I don't understand that much. But a lot of them don't want to do anything to improve themselves half the time. Like me in the past and everything, I wanted to improve myself. I improved myself. But by not being lazy about it. And that's how it is. You always want to constantly try to advance yourself and do a little better than you can. It's not for money or the love of money. You do it. You always try to make yourself do better at things. But your best.
That's true. Thank you. Page 145. Discontent or worry is covetousness and idolatry. Look again at what constitutes covetousness. We have all thought that it consisted in not desiring a rich man's possessions. But we shall see that it comes much closer to us than that Jesus says in Matthew 6:39, 30, 31, and 32.
If God so clothe the grass of the field, which today is, and tomorrow is cast into an oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? But be not therefore anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or withal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentile heathens seek.
We see from this that anxiety for food or drink and clothing is the characteristics of the heathen, and it is therefore idolatry. So again, we are brought face to face with the truth that covetousness is idolatry. And that also doesn't mean just because God clothes the grass that you're just going to wait for your clothing to come from heaven. Right? You trust that God is going to provide you a job, and if you're more than capable, then you go for it. Doesn't mean that clothing, your rent money is going to just come flying down from heaven. I mean, unless there's some serious situation that you're not able to work, unless there's no job available and you're waiting for a job, like it has to be like a miracle. But God gave us little hands and feet for us to get up there and work. We cannot be worrying over what we have not, or over the loss of something that we had, and at the same time be serving God. Everything in this world belongs to somebody. Therefore, if we covet something that we have not, we are coveting what belongs to somebody else. And are also wishing to deprive some other person of something in order that we may be pleased. But that is not to love our neighbor as ourselves, and so it is a violation of the whole law. Or, if it be claimed that there is a great deal that it is not in the possession of anybody, and which is therefore open to all, we must still admit that it belongs to the Lord, who will put us in the way of getting it, if it be right for us to have it. And if we complain because we have it not, we are manifesting a lack of trust in God's loving care for us. Page 146. Absolute trust in our Father. See how this commandment teaches us absolute trust in God, which is the perfection of Christianity. The Lord knows what we have need of before we ask, and He has provided it before we become conscious of our need, just because He is our Father. We have much to learn from the relation between parent and child. We are to receive the kingdom of God as little children, and the child is the perfect example of trust and content. Yet it is not lazy. The unspoiled child, or the child yet too young to have learned any of the worldly wisdom that consists in worry, dignified by the title of looking out for the future, expects as matter of course to have its wants supplied. It is content with what it receives. It never thinks of food until it's hungry, and when it receives the necessary supplies because the parents have anticipated the little one's need, why cannot the parents learn their lesson for themselves? Why should they think that they are better than their father? Trust not idleness.
Yeah, you know, they say like when you're a child, you pretty much have no worries. Sorry. You know, when you're a child, you don't have all the worries. When you get an adult age, you got to do a lot of things now. Yeah, because the child doesn't really worry too much about where they're gonna eat because their parents are gonna get enough of them.
So they're so trusting. Even the babies, think about them. The babies sometimes they don't open their eyes. They don't want to open them, and they're just trusting that they're gonna be fed, they're gonna be changed, they're gonna be warmed, they're gonna be loved. They can do nothing for themselves, not one single thing, but cry.
Yeah, but also too with that is the child's not supposed to be lazy.
Right. No. But I was talking about a baby right now.
No, yeah. Yeah, that's true. No, I mean even a child and everything. I guarantee the child gets all provided for, but the child just to sit there and wait for everything to come. No.
No, he's supposed to be a little helper